Okay. Let's continue. The fuck, why? The fuck, why is it sitting like this? Happy citizens and clean, orderly streets meant wealth. Galkheim was well off. Risha couldn't help but grin at an adorable little girl watching them roll by with sparkling eyes. When she saw Risha's smile, she blushed and leaped up in the air, laughing with delight. The coach made its way through the city before passing through the castle gates. Lines of disciplined knights flanked the cut road, ready to greet the crown prince and his fiancée. That's still probably weird for her. Arnold stepped out of the coach, holding his hand to Risha. She took it reflexively as she alighted. A prince would be expected to help any lady out of the carriage, never mind his own consort, yet for some reason the knights looked a little disturbed. Well, he's probably not like that normally, so of course they'd be kind of off-put. Risha shot them back a look of innocent confusion. Our long journey is at last at its end, Your Highness, Lady Risha. Oliver emerged from the ranks of the knights, bowing. He shot Arnold a curious glance. How novel to see you taking the hand of your fiancé. Ah, Risha realized that she herself had willingly broken the condition that she had imposed. Oh. Yeah, that's why that doesn't explain why the knights looked disturbed. Willingly broken the condition that she had imposed. Arnold had offered his hand, but she was the one who accepted. Arnold gave a little laugh. Risha felt a rush of frustration at being tricked. Oliver stared at them before leaning in to whisper in Arnold's ear. Arnold let out a breath of annoyance. Is something the matter? Risha asked. I sent orders ahead to have a detached wing of the palace prepared for us, but it seems the preparations are behind schedule. I'm sorry, but you'll need to stay in a guest room in the main palace for a few days. Oh, I don't mind if the wing isn't ready, Risha said. We can head over there now. It hasn't been used in quite a while. It'll be covered in dust. I said that I didn't mind if it was a mess, remember? But there's no need for you to put yourself out. By all means, stay in the main palace for as long as you need. Risha had spent a life as a maid. Dust did not scare her. Besides, I'm a hostage after all. You could at least attempt to sound distracted. Or distressed, Arnold said with the slightest trace of petulance. Risha, who had a huge grin spreading over her face, and her chest puffed out with pride, didn't respond. The detached wing turned out to be just a separate palace in the distant corner of the grounds. A scant 4 stories tall, and as advertised, absolutely swimming in dust. Not so bad, though. Risha had pictured decay and clutter, but it was mostly just bare. Bare and musty, but not rotten or falling apart. Why would they let that be rotting and falling apart? Even if they're not using it, they're still going to keep it, at least, not in disrepair. What kind of royalty would they be if they did that? You can do whatever you want with this place. I'll be occupied over the next few days, but feel free to use the guest apartments in the main palace if you get tired of choking to death, Arnold said before he left. According to Oliver, work had piled up while the prince was away, and it wasn't just a few things that could be dispersed with over a few days' work around the clock. Emperor Arnold Hine. He's just a crown prince right now, but I still wish I knew what was going on in his head. For now, I'll just focus on what I can do, like make this place livable. She changed into her plainest dress and rolled up her sleeves. The knights who'd remained to serve as her guard kept watching her as she went from window to window, throwing them all open. In a stroke of luck, the weather was good and a detached wing was well placed to soak up the sun. The lack of any creature comfort made it look aesthetic and drab, but once it was furnished, Risha had no doubt it would be lovely. Leaving the top floors to air out, Risha found the stairs to the basement. She pushed the heavy wooden door open, and mice skirted over her feet. The knights yelped as Risha descended into the darkness. Lady Risha, where are you going down there for? Cleaning supplies are usually kept in the basement. See? The knights followed her gaze to a duster, broom, dustpan, and a pile of fresh cloth. There's fresh cloth in a place that's been covered in dust. Really? She filled the bucket with water and went to work rolling up a handkerchief to cover her mouth as she swept dust down from high on the walls. Then she swept up all the dust on the floor. It's always satisfying to tackle a place that's filthy. Because then once you're done, you know you've accomplished something. She corralled the dust bunnies until they were piled up like snow in the center of the hall, and then she swept them out the open door. Once the floors were free of debris, she attacked them with the cloth. Lady Riche, is there anything we can do to help? Riche was grateful for the knight's offer, but she shook her head. Your job is to guard me, not do my housekeeping. This is quite the place to clean on your own, detached though it may be. The knight said hesitantly. It's not too late to move into the guest chambers instead. That's all right. I like this place already. Riche remained steadfast in her refusal for one reason. Readying guest chambers was an awful chore. The palace maids would be expected to work overnight to prepare them, even if the guests were only staying a single night. No speck of dust or strand of hair could remain, certainly no wrinkled sheets. Riche knew how exhausting and rigorous a maid's job was. How nerve-wracking. She refused to put the poor dears through such an ordeal for just a few days' stay. From the sound of things, the palace wasn't equipped with many housemaids. No doubt they already had their hands full. Besides, take a look. She held out her arms wide, gesturing to her sparkling clean floor. The knight stared at the bright room in admiration. Cleaning a place with your own hands makes living there that much more satisfying, you see. The knight smiled their awkward but good-natured agreement. Riche worked tirelessly, and before long the chambers where she would spend the night were ready. The knights offered to carry in the bed, which she allowed. Well, yeah, you can't really expect to carry that in by yourself. While they brought in furniture, Riche started cleaning another room. She had run out of clean water, so she quietly slipped out to the well without informing the knights. It wasn't quite fair to them, but these were the palace grounds. Surely she didn't need to be chaperoned everywhere. Besides, they're guards in name only. They're clearly just here to report my movements to Arnold Hine. Riche reflected as she walked through a courtyard full of flowers, bucket in hand. Iridescent butterflies cavorted playfully around her feet. He doesn't seem in a hurry to introduce me to the king. Although if I'm just a hostage, that doesn't surprise me. She hoped she got to meet the current emperor at least once. The future Arnold's violent conquest only began after he killed the man who made himself emperor after all. I wonder what happened to Arnold Hine after I died in my past life. Did he reign supreme after winning his war, or did some country manage to put a stop to his conquest? Whatever the case, I absolutely cannot allow him to start a conflict this time. Being the emperor of a wartime nation's empress of a wartime nation sounds like so much work. The very thought is unacceptable. Perhaps they could divorce, but Riche had a feeling that if Arnold decided to discard her in the middle of a war, she would fail in her mission to make it past the age of 20. Oh yeah, she only has 5 years. Better to avoid the situation altogether. Wait. When she thought about it, the cause of every single one of Riche's death was Arnold and his war. I died fighting, I died of an infectious disease I caught while treating battlefield injuries, I died when Alkine's army invaded. Looking at her 6 lives, all of them had ended in more or less the same way. Riche frowned herself, crouched on the ground, cradling her head in her hands. Maybe we should get a divorce right now, but it wasn't in Riche's nature to take back her decision once she's made them. If I leave, I'll probably just die in some war-related disaster again. If I can't live apart from him, I should take this opportunity to learn everything that I can. Why don't you just find out what could cause... If only you could have found out what caused the war in the previous lives, maybe you could prevent it. And then this wouldn't happen. Yeah. Riche didn't know the cause of her repeating lies, but there was no guarantee that the loops were infinite. She had to operate under the possibility that this life could be her last. This required some thought, but standing around seething with anxiety wouldn't help. Right now, I'll focus on cleaning. Once the bath is here, I'll scrub off with the dust and travel exhaustion. Then I can finally relax. Brimming with new determination, she stood up and headed for the well. She was forestalled by the sounds of jeering giggles. Oh, look at the new girl trying so hard. Oh god, they think she's a maid, said one voice. All the enthusiasm in the world won't make a difference, said another. We're going to be the crown prince's maids, not you. Oh. Well, this is going to be funny when they find out she's the freaking crown princess. Oh, they're going to have egg on their face on that. The priest added, Hey, are you even listening? Stop wasting your time. Riche heard a weak... Oh, they're not talking to her. Okay, they're talking to somebody else. Riche heard a weak scream followed by a thump, like a body hitting the ground. She broke into a run, finding a blonde girl sprawled in the dirt, surrounded by 4 other women. Are you all right? Riche hurried over to help the girl up. Her maid's uniform, a loose navy blue dress with a white apron, was smeared with mud. The others were dressed identically. Who are you? One of the girls snapped at Riche. She had a mop of blazing red hair. Another newbie? An understanding mistake. Riche's dress was simple, free of ornamentation, and her hair was bound back in a ponytail to keep it out of the way. She was dust-streaked, sweaty, and carrying a bucket in her hands. Telling them who I am will be more trouble than it's worth. Her silence only angered the girls more. Are you one of the crown prince's maids? They've been snatching up every new girl. These pretty hands of yours don't look like they've ever held a broom, said one of them. Unfortunately for you, we've been working hard here for 3 years, and we'll be the ones to serve Prince Arnold as the maids of his palace. Yeah, I doubt that. Not if Risha's got anything to say about it. Can you stand? Oh, good, it looks like you're not injured. Risha helped the girl up out of the dirt. Hey, don't ignore us, the red-headed mage shouted. You've got some nerve. If you want to make it here, you'll know your place. I doubt the two of you will last a week. Yeah, I doubt they're gonna eat their words. Risha didn't respond, her attention snagging on something else. The redhead was carrying curtains, probably to bring them to the wash. Risha stared at them so hard the maid began to shift uncomfortably. What's your problem? You should wait to wash those, Risha said. The girl glared daggers at her. Excuse me? Are you telling me it's too late in the day? You really are an amateur. The light lasts longer in the spring, you know. And it's hot today. There'll be plenty of it's going to rain is all. The maids exchanged glances. How can you be so sure? Look at the clouds amassing. The butterflies and the bees are flying low. The moisture in the air will make the drying take longer. What? Another maid spoke up in a soft voice. Diana, you were the one who said we should take the initiative to wash the bigger pieces. You said the Crown Prince would choose us for his household. Stop putting the blame on me. This isn't my fault. An indignant flush crept over the redhead's face. There's no way some upstart can tell what time it's going to rain. The weather's going to be fantastic all day. Come on, we're hauling these over to the wash. The three girls meekly followed Diana. Yeah, you guys are going to be mad at her later. Risha sighed, turning to the blonde girl. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. The girl's gaze darted around nervously. I'm Elsie. Thank you for helping me. Her face was studiously blank, but from the way she struggled with her words, Risha could tell she was being genuine. Don't worry about it, Risha said. Your uniform seems to have fared less well. Oh no, Elsie looked down at herself. Her face remained vacant, but she seemed sad. And I just got it. You can get the dirt out if you wash it straight away. It's going to rain, but this dress should dry quickly. Use lots of soap, but don't scrub it by hand. Scrape the mud off with a brush. Why a brush? Because your fingers will just spread dirt into the threads. A brush is more porous. The young sons of the family Risha served spent their time tumbling in the dirt, and she had plenty of experience scraping mud out of clothes. She could even salvage dirty socks that had spent days crumpled in the corner. Are you? Elsie trailed off, blinking rapidly a couple times before finally looking Risha in the eyes. Are you the Crown Princess's maid? Unsure how to answer, Risha couldn't meet her eyes. After parting ways with Elsie, Risha returned to the detached wing with her fresh water. She put clean sheets on the bed the knights had installed, satisfied that she had a comfortable place to sleep. This room also had the highest up balcony in the whole detached palace. Taking a break, she wandered out into the balcony and looked off over the capital, the golden afternoon tinged with the onset of twilight. The day was fresh, with a recent rain, the air clear enough to see for miles. The spring breeze felt good against her skin, sweaty from cleaning. Risha leaned against the railing, leaning her head back and closing her eyes. She felt like collapsing into bed immediately, but she desperately needed a wash. Still, she didn't want to pull herself away from the view and the breeze just yet. When she resumed gazing out absentmindedly, something her mother once said drifted back to her. Risha, there's no need for you to think for yourself. She frowned, the memories coming thick and fast now. You mustn't forget that the duty of our family is to live our lives fully devoted to the kings of the land. You're smart, but all the thinking in the world won't do a woman any good. You need only concern yourself with how best to serve the Crown Prince. You're gonna be his wife, so... not really. Studies? Focus on social etiquette? That's what you need for navigating high society. The Crown Princess bride must be flawless. Your smile is lacking. You must always strive to appear amiable. Risha breathed out a long sigh. When I was 15, their lectures were the only thing I thought about. Oh yeah, because she was engaged before to the other guy. Yeah, that's why. Her parents preached constantly. A woman's true happiness is to marry a suitable man and give birth to his heirs. But mother... Objection was not permitted. Any argument was immediately dispensed with. As a woman, Risha could not inherit her father's title. Her only value was in her marriage. Yeah, I hate that kind of thinking, but that's way back when, so yeah. Despite knowing now that the opinions of others were as worthless as empty titles, the words still echoed in her memories. Risha's fingertips twitched and she opened her eyes. Unmoving, she said, Shouldn't you be seeing to your duties? More hidden depths, I see. It came a voice tinged with pleasure. Risha straightened and turned. There was Arnold. Oh god, what have you been standing there for? Arnold leaning against the door to the balcony. You seem able to sense my approach, no matter how far or how hard I try. You're quite naughty, aren't you? You've been making your presence known little by little, emanating thread to see how quickly I catch on. So you noticed that as well. Arnold joined Risha on the balcony. She tensed, but all he did was cast a curious glance at the view. What were you looking at? The city. Risha was hardly going to tell him she'd been looking at nothing, merely ruminating on her mother's overbearing advice. The view from the balcony was spectacular, though. What's that over there? You mean the library? The state invested funds to expand it. We have books from all over the world. Really? You have a library that big? Rishi's eyes sparkled with delight. She pointed out another building. What about that spire? It's beautiful. The church and clock tower. The bells ring out the hour. Oh, how wonderful. And it looks like there's a rather big market there, too. Yes, the largest market in the city. Carts line up in the early morning. Most of the offerings are made fresh every day. Amazing. And what about that pretty mountain over there? Rishi tried and failed to contain her excitement. She couldn't help but imagine what seeing all those places up close would be like. The grand library, the beautiful church that told the time, and the morning market with fresh, delicious food. She wanted to experience it all. Seeing Arnold's bemused face, she said, "What?" "I'm just wondering where all this interest is coming from," he said. "You were so reluctant to come, yet here you are brimming with curiosity for my city." "Well," she trailed off, unsure of how to respond. What should I say? Should I just tell him the truth? This wasn't a secret, but talking about her hopes and dreams to the man who killed her was a little awkward. And that was in a past life, though, and he's obviously not the same person because you caught his interest. A strange self-consciousness settled on her cheeks heating as she mumbled, "Because I've always wanted to." Arnold looked at her keenly. Wanted to what? "I've always wanted to come here." During her life as a merchant, Rishi developed her single dream to visit everywhere in the world. That dream was cut tragically short when only one country remained, Galkine. In each of her consecutive lives, Rishi's priority became staying alive. Every time, without fail, just as she found her footing, the world was plunged into chaos. She never had the chance to see Galkine. This betrothal was her chance. It's probably why I agreed to marry you, she added after a moment's hesitation. Arnold swept a tepid glance over the city. There's nothing here worth seeing. That's not true. The places you just told me about sound amazing. Your citizens are clean and happy. Your knights are proper and kind. Oh, and another... Rishi broke off, enumerating Galkine's charms as Arnold turned to look at her. Oh boy. His face was impassively calm, but something seemed to pass by underneath, like a shadow in deep water. I'm sorry, Rishi said. Did I say something odd? No, he's probably just confused. I'm just amazed you could be so unaware of yourself. What a rude thing to... I've never met anyone like you. No one has ever spoken to me the way you do. I don't know any girls of your class with the knowledge or the physical abilities you possess. Noble women don't concern themselves with such things. Rishi, there's no need for you to think for yourself. She frowned. Perhaps you're right, but everything I've learned is precious to me. No one can take my skills away. I value them with my life. Some may say that my knowledge is worthless, but it makes no difference to me. She turned from the balcony, fixing him with a piercing gaze. I'm the one who decides what I value. Rishi had clawed free of her mother and father's indoctrination a long time ago. Man, woman, it didn't matter. She could do anything. Being queen was not the culmination of her life. She wouldn't trade her freedom for anything. Uh-oh. Here we go, guys. I'm a sucker for romance, but anything like this I have to read out loud. It makes me a giggling mess. Arnold matched her intensity. You're right. He gently cupped her cheek in one hand. Oh boy, here we go. Swiping his thumb along the line of her jaw, smearing down. Yeah, you still have to get a dang bath, girl. Live your life here however you wish. I vow to do my utmost to protect you. Huh? His vehemence took her by surprise. Arnold had every right to demand she act the part of a proper consort. This was a political marriage. Rishi was essentially a hostage after all, yet here he was, co-signing her misbehavior. Moreover, he was all but swearing to defend her from the consequences. Why? Yeah, this guy is, yeah, he's enamored with you. Yeah, you know why? I'm enamored with you. Arnold fed her the same line. I know you said you don't care about other people's approval, but I like your asymmetrical talents. I don't find them useless at all. But then again, he still doesn't know how she got them, and she can't really explain that she's been in a freaking time loop. Every time she dies, she gets back to the same spot. Rishi didn't know how to respond. I thought I already made that clear. He took his hand back, drawing away, stopping just on the threshold. He turned back to a stunned Rishi and said, Let me know if there's anything you desire. I realize I just broke her agreement that went about not touching you. She's already broken that agreement, man. And with that, he was gone. Shaken, Rishi sank to the floor of the balcony. I can't predict him at all. Just what is Arnold Hine planning? I'm assuming that something happened between when she, starts her loop and when he takes over and becomes emperor that causes him to do that, because I highly doubt that he wouldn't do that for a reason. I'm guessing that maybe something happened to somebody he cares about, or maybe things were worse in the kingdom. That I don't know. I don't know. Anyway. Sunlight streamed through the window as Riche roused from sleep. She rolled over, basking in the morning light. The wall she expected wasn't there, and the bed seemed larger than usual. Taking advantage of it, she stretched out as far as she could. Was this her chamber at home? Or maybe she was a merchant again, spending a night at the Desert King's palace. Yeah, I think she forgot. She forgot about all this. Perhaps it's her better straw from her life as a maid. Her memories met and interwove as she drifted into wakefulness. When Riche finally opened her eyes, she grew even more confused. Light blue curtains surrounded the bed, thin enough to allow sunlight to pass through. She pulled them aside to find herself in a bare room devoid of furniture and carpet. Oh, right! She didn't need to report for morning training, tend to her herb garden, prepare breakfast, or see how the bottles she had brewed overnight were coming along. Realizing that, Riche buried her face in the pillow. So soft, she mumbled. Judging by the position of the sun, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning. She was pretty sure she had gone to bed around midnight last night. I slept for 6 whole hours? I'm assuming, yeah. Riche couldn't believe it. Generally, she was used to getting about 4 hours of sleep. On bad days, at the height of an emergency as a knight or apothecary, she wouldn't even get that much. I've got nothing but cleaning on the schedule today. Hostages can sleep in, right? At least a little? Excitement suffused her at the thought, but that was interrupted by a knock at the door. Hey, are you awake? It's Oliver, Prince Arnold's attendant. Riche sat up with a start. I'm awake. Oliver continued to speak through the door. I apologize for bothering you at such an early hour. I'm here with a delivery. Just a moment. Riche slipped out of the bed, dressing quickly and tugging the bed's canopy closed. She opened the door to find Oliver standing in the hallway with a polite smile. He apologized again. This is the only time I could slip away from His Highness's office. I'm glad to see that you're already dressed. Not at all, Riche paused, stepping back to allow him inside. Oh my, you look exhausted. Oliver grimaced. Is it that obvious? We've been climbing through mountains of paperwork, but never mind me. His Highness has been working around the clock. Richard thought back to yesterday, how he had come all the way out to the balcony. He should have used that spare time to sleep. He's in high demand, isn't he? He was even working on the trip over. He finished all the work he brought along with us, Oliver confirmed. Now he's dealing with everything that piled up during his visit to Hermity. Oh, Riche grimaced in sympathy. He may have killed her in a past life, but she wouldn't wish the bureaucracy of kingship on anyone. It's a shame he had to put his work on hold to attend a silly engagement party. No matter, that party was how a committed bachelor finally found a bride. His smile was sincere, but Riche knew better. She spread her arms. Go on, shall I spin around so you have a better view? Oliver blinked. I beg your pardon? You're looking me over like I'm a horse for sale. If there's anything I can help you with, please let me know. Oliver's brows went up. He let out a little breath of resignation. His Highness was right. You do possess the keen perception of a knight. Of course, I'm purely an amateur myself. I'd say this was a merchant's sixth sense rather than battle intuition. This wasn't the first time Riche had caught Oliver looking at her. It reminded her of the way her noble customers would examine a product, assessing worth and authenticity, or a merchant weeding out potential merchandise from a wide array of choices. In other words, he was appraising her. Okay, so this is Oliver. Okay. He's cute. Oliver moved into a deep, sweeping bow. My sincerest apologies, my lady. I have been unaccountably rude to my lord's consort. My behavior was unacceptable. Riche shook her head. Please don't. It's fine. It was unreasonable for the prince's close attendants to be wary of strangers. It wasn't unreasonable, anyway. But it did make her curious. How long have you worked for Arnold? Have you always been a valet? I trained as a squire, actually, Oliver replied. But I was injured and dismissed from the order. His Highness took me into his household soon after. I have served him for nearly a decade. Then maybe you can answer this, Riche said. Why is Prince Arnold so very intent on making me his wife? Oliver hesitated, as if weighing the pros and cons of speaking. To be quite honest, I was as surprised as you were. He's always insisted he had no interest in marriage, but the sight of you in Hermity has changed his mind, apparently. So not even his attendant understands his motives. Riche remained at a complete loss. If I may, however, Oliver mistook Riche's confusion for anxiety and added, I have served Prince Arnold for a long time, and never before have I seen him so happy. When he is with you, he laughs. His smiles are sincere. Riche was taken aback. She'd figured all of Arnold's laughter and teasing was at her expense, his own private jokes. Are you unhappy with him? Oliver ventured. With his looks, His Highness is exceedingly popular with the ladies of the court, you know. I'm sure he has many admirers, she paused. Would you really call the way he acts around me happy? I guess since he knows him so well, he'd probably be happy in, I guess, comparison to how he usually is, he is happy. To me, it seems more like a cat with a mouse. Oliver laughed. He didn't deny it. I am pleased you understand His Highness so well. Oh, and nearly forgot. Here. He held out a sheaf of 3 documents. This is the guest list for your wedding. His Highness bid you look over it. Thank you, Risha said, pleasantly surprised. She hadn't even needed to ask. She gave it a quick glance, quickly identifying the most prominent and powerful names. King Zahad, Prince Kyle, Princess Harris, and from the kingdom of Domina, we have Lord Jonal attending as a representative of the king. No surprise there. More than a wedding guest registry, this was a list of key people from the countries Arnold will go on to antagonize. Even before the murder of the king and the start of the war, there must have been a trigger. Yeah, see, this is what I've been saying. Something had to have happened to cause it. A sea change in the affairs of state. Everyone on this list was most likely involved. King Zahad, I hope we can be friends again like on my first life. Prince Kyle is rather frail. I hope he isn't working himself too hard. He has a strong sense of responsibility. He'll attend the wedding even though it'll be a long trip. The sight of these names filled Risha with a longing for those lives, for the people she'd once known, and sometime in the very near future they would all be Galkine's enemies. If I take matters into my own hands, perhaps I can salvage some of those relationships before they sour. Even if we aren't allies, we don't have to be enemies. Anything to stave off the outbreak of war. Yeah, try and convince Arnold to work with these guys instead of making them enemies. Like, maybe figure out what could cause him to go to war? Or find out who's important to Arnold and protect them, for example, because that might be the trigger? Who knows? Oliver had no idea what was going through Risha's head. Brightly, he continued the conversation. The ceremony will be held in 3 months' time. All preparations must be complete by then, and now we need to discuss tonight's party. Tonight's what? Oliver stiffened. Did His Highness not tell you? No, he most certainly did not. There's to be a party? Not again. Oliver dug his knuckles into his forehead. Risha put 2 and 2 together. She hesitated, then said, So there is one, then. As you must know, His Highness is trying to stamp it down without telling me. I'm sorry, Oliver replied. He should have mentioned it to you. You don't need to attend, but he will. At least, I hope he will. I think I've managed to convince him. She sympathized with Oliver. Under normal circumstances, it would be unheard of for the Crown Princess, his fiancée, to fail to appear at a banquet. Don't worry, Oliver. I'll go. Oliver let out a sigh of relief. Really? Thank you so much, my lady. I'll put finding you a maid at the top of my to-do list. No need, Rishi smiled. I can prepare for the party on my own. This maid selection process made Rishi uneasy. After witnessing that exchange between the servants in the garden, she imagined quarrels breaking out all through the palace, and she doubted the disputes would go away even after they decided. Oliver frowned. But won't dressing be difficult without a lady's maid? She shook her head. I can do my hair and put on my gown by myself. I brought dresses and cosmetics from home, don't worry. Rishi ignored Oliver's stunned look, already reevaluating her cleaning plans. The first thing Rishi said to Arnold that night was, Your Highness, I have a request. Her gown rustled as she leaned in close. I would like some herb seed and a corner of the gardens I made, a list. I hope we can discuss this in more detail later. Wait, where am I? Okay, here we go. That is right, okay. Arnold was silent a moment. Rishi, what? Didn't you tell me to let me know if there was anything I wanted? She looked at him quizzically, and Arnold sighed. She'd heard that he'd finished his mountain of work, and even managed to sleep for a while. He was dressed in his usual military black, trimmed with a red mantle and black gloves. Arnold shook his head. That's not what I mean. I'm guessing that Oliver didn't tell you the reason for this party. It's merely for appearance's sake. I need to look like I've been searching for a bride within our borders as well. There's no reason for you to attend. It made sense. The Crown Prince, the greatest catch in the kingdom, marrying a foreigner without even the slightest nod to propriety, would invite unwanted discontent from the nobility. However, we're betrothed, Arnold said. This whole evening is merely a formality. And with news that you're my hostage going around, you'll be an object of curiosity. I don't want to put you through that. Well, I already went to the trouble of getting ready. Riche plucked at her soft blue dress, draped in fluttering layers around her like a flower bud. She'd braided her hair, decorating it with accessories. Her makeup was light, her shoes polished to mere shine. Her only jewelry was a pair of pearl earrings. Riche, Your Highness, the court may consider my status as a captive princess shameful in the extreme, but I don't. She'd chosen this course after all. Arnold was again watching her with a mixture of wonder and confusion. "So don't worry," she said, extending her hand. "Feel free to show off your fiancé." Arnold relented, his dashing smile creeping out once again. "Very well, I should take advantage of this opportunity to touch my bitch." Oh my god, this again? Are you is he how long is she supposed to keep this up? Or how long was he supposed to keep that up? How long was he not allowed to? Just on the way there? Forever? Or wearing gloves? Arnold took Richie's hand. A throng of guests was gathering in the ballroom as a group of musicians performed on a platform. Women in gowns stood clustered, while gentlemen in military attire grouped together. A mere glance was enough to tell their clothes were of the highest quality. They mingled happily, making small talk with glasses in hand. Rishi let her hand rest on Arnold's arm as she paused at the threshold to take it all in. "This is a bigger event than I was expecting." "Is it? I'd say it's a rather small gathering." "To you, but not to her." "Yeah, maybe for a military powerhouse," Rishi muttered. Yet another reminder of Galkine's wealth took her off guard. Arnold just looked bored. "The size doesn't matter," he said. "In the end, they're only here for gossip. Look, here they come." In the blink of an eye, they were surrounded by guests. "Prince Arnold, thank you for gracing us with an invitation," said one man. "Such a pleasure." "The pleasure is mine, Lord Abel," Arnold drawled. "Your Highness, we were so glad to hear of your safe return," another guest chirped. "Please, our daughter is simply dying to be regaled with tales of your trip." "I can't imagine I'd have anything particularly exciting to share with her," Arnold said curtly. After the last few days, Riche found this look of glazed apathy disturbing. His good looks only compounded it. He was so handsome that every expression was stark. He looks more like Emperor Arnold Hine now, but still not the same. Arnold appeared to notice her watching him. When he looked at her, his sourness disappeared, replaced by a genuine smile. All around him, women found themselves flushing. Arnold paid no heed to their fervent gazes, instead leaning in to give Rishi a brief moment of consideration. No. Hey, she told you, hands off." She leaned in close enough to kiss her. "A dull trip," he said again, pulling away, "but fortuitous. Without it, I would have never met the woman destined to be my wife." So, did he kiss her or not? He was close enough to, I guess he didn't. A shocked murmur rolled through the crowd. Riche, who hadn't recovered from seeing Arnold's beautiful face at close range, barely noticed the looks of utter loathing the assembled women were. Of course, because they wanted him. Of course. They're not going to be happy that he's taken. His Highness is smiling? At his hostage bride? He called her his wife. He's never even looked at us. There were whispers, but they carried. A portly man stepped forward with his daughter in tow. "Your Highness, do you mean to say that this lovely young woman is your fiancée?" Okay, that was it. Okay. Every eye in the ballroom was on Riche, slight with curiosity, envy, or schemes. None of them could hide their contempt, but Riche didn't falter. This was nothing compared to being publicly dumped in a banquet hall, and I've done that several times. Yeah. She offered a polite smile and astoundingly correct curtsy. Left leg at a diagonal behind the right, back straight, head bowed. "How do you do? My name is Riche Irmgard Weitzner." Still get used to saying that. Even the most hostile guests could find nothing impolite in her greeting, no sign of rough manners from the rustic daughter of a backwater nation. Riche had years of training and expectation of ascending to the throne. Occasionally habits from her other life slipped through, but Arnold appeared to be the only one who noticed. Now he was looking at her with satisfaction. Lady Riche has only just arrived, and her acquaintances are few and far between. I hope I can count on you all to hold me accountable should I prove an incompetent husband. But of course, Your Highness. Come, Riche. Arnold guided her out of the ring of spectators. The stayers continued to follow them as they walked away. Riche dropped her voice to a whisper. "You sure know how to invite the ire of women." "Whatever do you mean?" "The way you harped on about me. Everything you said was tailor-made to stroke their jealousy. You've gained me enemies, so thanks for that." Arnold snorted. "Everything I said was to protect you from enemies. I need to know you aren't just some trophy they can eliminate without recourse. We need to show them that this to forestall any potential moves against you in the future." "Show them what exactly?" Yeah, he kind of did do that, but at the same time, if they were to try anything against her, then she would tell him, and they would be in trouble. So they're jealous, but they don't have much of a death wish to be able to try even doing anything. "That I'll protect you no matter what." He said it with such nonchalance that it brought her up short. "Protect me? Arnold Hine? Protect me?" Such an ironic position to take. She couldn't tell him that, of course. Her response came out somewhat strangled. "I doubt there'll be anything to worry about. In fact, the bigger threat facing me is you." "Oh, and why do you say that?" For many reasons, the most obvious being that I'm no match for you without a blade. Or no match for you with a blade, as much as it pained her to admit it. Arnold looked pleased. Perhaps we should duel. Really, not now? Yes, please, and if it wouldn't be an intrusion, I would like to train with you. If she studied him, she could learn his strategies and his attack patterns. She'd never be a match in speed or raw power, but any insight would be invaluable. Sure, Arnold shrugged. I don't mind. Truly, her eyes glittered with anticipation. He chuckled. Your answers never disappoint me. What's that supposed to mean? Oh, it looks like they're playing a new song. A soft melody drifted across the hall. The crowd divided, heading towards the center of the floor or against the wall. A next dance was starting, and everyone was waiting to see what the Crown Prince and his new fiancée would do. We don't have to dance if you don't want to, Arnold said. Oh? As it happens, I like dancing. Plus, she couldn't resist a blatant challenge. She offered him her hand. Very well, then. Arnold only hesitated for a moment before taking it and steering her gently to an empty spot on the floor. He didn't seem like the dancing type, but his movements were slick and I'm guessing that, like her, he was trained in this sort of, in everything that he would need to know when it comes to elegance, manners, dealing with the public and everything, so yeah, this would be nothing for him. Facing one another, they joined hands. Arnold wrapped his other arm around her waist. Oh, his hand felt huge against her back. She realized she was breathing a little faster. They'd never been this close before. Kind of. Not. No, that isn't quite true. This is the second time. Reishi's final memories from her last life flashed vividly through her mind. This was indeed the second time they had been this close. The first had ended with a sword through her chest. Emperor Arnold Hyde had single-handedly decimated the knights in the castle. Reishi stood in the midst of the carnage. Breath ragged as she gripped the hilt of her sword, slick with her own blood. She was the last line of defense. A chamber behind her housed the royal family. If they could reach the hidden passageways, the young prince and his party could find shelter with their allies across the border. Wait. So, was Prince Dietrich, the one she's talking about? With their allies across the border, Riche and the other knights were prepared to sacrifice their lives to allow the royal family to survive. Their escape meant victory. Bells tolled out, urging flight. All is lost. Run. Riche managed to graze Arnold's cheek with her blade before she looked down to find his jet-black sword blooming out of her chest. She remembered how it burned, as if the blade was made of fire. Maybe it's magically enchanted, who knows? It was heat, not pain, but her breathing grew labored, and when Emperor Arnoldheim withdrew his sword, Riche crumpled. Huh? Okay, this is interesting. He knelt by her side and whispered something. The words were seared into her memory. Ooh. Riche squeezed Arnold's hand as they danced. What the heck does this mean? I'll be the bully this time? What? Oh, that could be taken out of context. I'm sorry. I kind of read a little ahead quietly, because I was trying to figure out what the frick is she talking about. Because I thought for a second that maybe that's what he said. I'm thinking that's what she's thinking. Riche shifted her weight back, slipping out of the hold on her waist. She broke Arnold's lead and spun, drifting on the harmony of the dance. She took him by surprise. His arms went wide. I wonder what... Oh, this is, like I said, this is going to be taken out of context. It's a good thing she doesn't say this out loud, because that could be implied as something else. I wonder what you'll do when you're no longer on top, Your Highness. Her smile was a declaration of war. Watching him attempt to follow her lead would be delightful. She pulled his hand toward her, attempting to move them into a spin, but Arnold held fast. Yeah, he's not going to let you in on that. He planted his hand on her waist and turned them in a different direction, using her inertia against her. Hey! As a result, Riche twirled by herself on the spot. She didn't miss a step. She turned elegantly, the hem of her dress whispering across the ballroom floor. She heard appreciative murmurs from the wall. Riche flowers lined up watching. Oh, from the wallflowers. Okay. Despite that, Riche took it as a defeat. Round 1 to Arnold. Oh my god. So, you can think on your feet. How about this? Arnold remained unruffled, awaiting her next scheme like it was nothing. Or evading her next scheme like it was nothing. He grinned down at her, his eyes shining with a dare. He thinks I can't beat him. His ease vexed her, but it was his smugness that made her angry. She let out a hard breath, attempting a maneuver to lure him in while turning. He leaned back, not falling for it at all. Oh, so it's kind of like kind of like a duel without swords, sort of, I'm guessing is what this is supposed to be. Without, them, extending their arms like they're using a sword. It's just like the movements, essentially. He's just too good at changing his center of gravity. She kept her astonishment under wraps, but she felt it. Despite how close we're dancing, I can't throw off his timing at all. He sidestepped all my attempts, and he takes back the lead the second I let down my guard. Yeah, this is the guy he probably trained for who knows how long at being a crown prince and fighting and stuff, so this is probably second nature to him. It made her increasingly angry. She twirled and stepped as the dance dictated, all the while feeling out for moments of weakness. Arnold played along with her game, completely unruffled. Every single time. I'm doing my utmost to trip him up, but he doesn't seem annoyed. At this point, she just settled for any reaction at all. Oh, this could be interesting. Their unusual dance style had gathered a crowd. Rishi paid them no mind, focusing only on her goal. Then something occurred to her and her breath caught in her throat. Wait a minute. He's left an opening. It's the same one from before. She thought back to their fight to the death, to that moment when she had managed to draw blood. That may indeed have been his only weakness. If I strike the same way... Huh? Before she could try, Arnold appeared to lose patience, wrapping his arm around her waist. He bent her back into a dip so deep it felt like he'd pulled the carpet from under her feet. She yelped, grabbing at him reflexively, clinging tight. His big hands gripped her securely enough to mitigate the sensation of falling. Relief fluttered through her, and she felt a laugh. Oh, God. Girl, how close are you to him? Felt a laugh rumble against her ear. Yeah, you're that close to him. Girl. The music came to an end with one last ringing note. She blinked. The dance is over? Yes, girl! A hush fell over the ballroom. The cheers broke out, followed by a round of applause. That was incredible. The watching nobles crowded in. You two moved in such perfect harmony. I was on the edge of my seat. I felt like I was watching a sword. That's what I'm saying! That's what I think it was. It was supposed to be like their movements in a sword fight, but in a dance routine. No? It's something that we worked on. So this is a dance from Hermione? Hermione? I've never seen such steps before. Well... Rishi floundered. She glanced up at Arnold, who appeared to be enjoying her struggle. She'd get no help from him. Rishi dealt with the barrage of questions as best she could, letting the crowd sweep them into the dining room, which was set up for a buffet-style meal. She made sure to greet every guest, riveting their faces into her memory. She must have been acting peculiar because Arnold eventually said, Rishi, I think the wine is getting to you. Shall we get some fresh air? Rishi hadn't touched a single drop. In fact, she'd been caught up in so many conversations that she hadn't even had the chance to eat. But she had experience working on an empty stomach. She accepted Arnold's encouragement as the escape it was. Just when I least expected, he'll act the gentleman. Maybe he'd remember her demand from a carefree life of doing nothing. Rishi cast a charming look across the crowd. Thank you for your consideration, Your Highness. Forgive me. She gave a polite bow before quietly slipping away. She didn't head straight to the balcony, but rather slowly walked around the hall. There was only so much she could find out glued to Arnold's side all night. I need information. Galkind's political landscape was a mystery to me through all my past lives. I only know the rumors that made it abroad. Although she knew of Arnold's eventual patricide, she had no concept of the circumstances leading up to it. She needed a better picture of the factions and power balance inside the court, the lives these people led. I know better than to believe wartime gossip. This Arnold Hind is a lot different from what I'd heard he was like at 19. He's not as diabolical as the rumors led me to believe. He likes to push, but he isn't unkind. A thought drifted across her mind, leaving her conflicted. Well, he's not unkind now, but I still don't like not knowing his motives. He's a bit of a jerk, to be honest. She tried to settle her mind and just observe. Gathering her intelligence was necessary to lead a long, carefree life lazing around the palace. If I recall correctly, that's Lord Hannawald. He seems to be on good terms with Count Gale. Duke Hoodman and Duke Tynitz are having a friendly enough conversation. Yeah, they don't seem close. Rishi ticked off the names of people she'd met, committing them to memory. A wave of sweet perfume wafted over her. A pretty girl with soft blonde hair had appeared at her side. How do you do, Lady Rishi? I'm Cornelia de Tuna. Duke Tuna's family was the 31st house she'd met tonight. Rishi smiled graciously. Rishi Arngard Weitzner, a pleasure to meet you. The pleasure is all mine. Cornelia smiled sweetly. Her eyes were big and bright, her lips full. She held the glass in each hand and offered one to Riche. Wine? I see you're empty-handed. A gaggle of other ladies nearby began giggling among themselves. How dare she act so haughty when she's a captive? It's time for her to learn just what she is, a pawn to be played and discarded. She should enjoy her time on Prince Arnold's arm while she can. She's from a minor nation, after all. Yeah. As Riche took note of the whispers, Cornelia gazed at her with doe eyes. Does my offering offend you in some way? If I remember correctly, House Tuna holds a vast territory in northern Galkine. Riche held out a hand to accept the glass. How could it? Thank you, Lady Cornelia. Before Riche could touch the glass, Riche gave a dramatic shout. Oh dear, my hand— Oh, okay, of course. Oh dear, my hand slipped. She did it on purpose. She was trying to mess with you. Don't trust anybody, girl. She dropped it quite obviously on purpose. Without thinking, Riche grabbed her skirts and leaned back, plucking the glass out of the air with the other hand. Cornelia let out a cry of surprise as Riche caught the wine before any could spill. She swirled the glass and brought it to her nose to breathe in the bouquet. That's mashed capsicum. Where did she even get that? What a waste of perfectly good wine. And why bother spicing it enough to singe the tongue if she just planned to ruin my dress? Pick a plan, my dear. Oh, then again, she probably wasn't sure if she would be able to get it on her dress, so she probably did that as a backup plan. Hiding her exasperation, Riche smiled brightly. I've never had a wine quite like this. What an unusual scent. Cornelia bit her lip in frustration. Riche beamed at her. You've got such a pretty face, Lady Tuna. Why don't you smile? Riche leaned in closer to Cornelia. This vintage isn't available where I'm from. I'm ever so anxious to learn more. Should I perhaps invite Prince Arnold over to enjoy a glass? Which tray did you get this from? What? Oh, Riche had a policy of never backing down from a fight, but it seemed Cornelia didn't share it. Sorry, but I don't remember. Such a large hall, you see. A shame. I'll just give His Majesty this one, then. I'll be sure to let him know who it's from. Wait! Cornelia rapidly shook her head. I got that glass for you, so I think you should— You know what? Never mind. Maybe I should take that— Oh, no. Riche ignored the ashen face Cornelia, raising the glass and swallowing down a gulp. I can't believe— Such a spicy flavor, just as I imagined. Riche smiled again to the assembled group's astonishment. What a warm welcome. I do hope the two of us can spend more time together, perhaps a tea party? The two of us? Cornelia stammered. Yes, I want to know all about House Tuna. Cornelia looked flabbergasted, but she recovered herself and nodded. That should do. One of Riche's eventual plans required a plot of land in a temperate climate. House Tuna's would likely be perfect, but she needed to confirm a few things with Cornelia. Never back down from a fight. Even further. She recalled the words of her mentor from her days as a merchant. Don't bother with fights you can't win. The other ladies fled, fearful of the strange girl who gulped down painfully spicy wine like it was nothing. Hang on. How far have I gotten? Okay, I'm going to have to end this. I'll see you guys next time.